Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:06. It's Thursday morning, and we're flying along here on a very busy day flying along. We're just getting started. We're just on the runway. We're just taking off, but I feel like we're already soaring across the next 4 hours of brilliant morning radio magic. Coming up at 7:05, our friend Ian Pryor out in Loudoun County with Fight for Schools. We have a school board meeting tonight. 7:35, John Myers running for for Congress in Virginia. And then at 8:05, the Attorney General of West Virginia will join us. That's pretty fun. By the way, speaking of, boy, those Democrats in Richmond really do love the Chinese communists. They're like bending over backwards. Boy, we better keep that TikTok. We got to make sure the kids' brains are poisoned by the Chi-Coms. We'll get into that a little bit later on. I'm Larry O'Connor alongside Mercedes Schlapp. Mercedes, aren't you like, I figured you'd be setting up the tables already at CPAC, inflating all the whoopee cushions. I know you spent a lot of time preparing the media area to make sure that all your friends in the press are comfortable and happy.
CPAC is 24/7 right now. It is it's hopping at CPAC with huge excitement, Larry. So we're just so excited. You're going to be there.
Yeah, one week from now.
That is right. We will be at CPAC in Washington in the Gaylord Hotel. If you still all can get your tickets.
Cannot wait.
So we'd love for you all to join us. It's going to be amazing.
Absolutely. At the Gaylord, and once again, I just want to remind everybody as they get worried about the Gaylord, we are don't ask, don't tell policy over here with regard to the Gaylord. So whatever happens over there is none of our business.
We need to buy our own hotel chain, Larry. We'll do the O'Connor Schlapp Hotel.
So I want to give you an update. It was a week ago today when the special prosecutor's report came out. Mr. Robert Hur, came out and described the President of the United States as not having a mental capacity worthy of defending himself at trial. He described the President of the United States as being elderly, feeble, absent-minded, poor memory, couldn't even remember the year that his son died. And if you remember when we discussed this on the air last week, I vividly remember saying, I guarantee you that Joe Biden brought up Beau Biden voluntarily. You know how I was pretty safe with that guarantee? I should have bet someone money on this. Because that's what he always does. He always raises the issue of his son. He raises the issue of his son for an emotional appeal, for sympathy, and as a distraction. So when this little line item in there said that he couldn't remember the year that he was born, remember, Joe Biden put together his emergency.
Was it the year he was born or the year
Excuse me, the year he died. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. He probably, by the way,
I
bet he doesn't remember what year he was born either. I mean,
I'm sure. Sure.
My father, I think I've shared this before, my father is in the throes of Alzheimer's right now. And that's why my antenna is up on this stuff. I'm recognizing so many things between what my father is currently going through.
In the early stages of dementia, and they start really, it's slowing down, it's forgetting things. And it's hard on any family, but I can't imagine a person in these conditions like literally being the president of the United States.
No,
like there really needs to be a serious, analysis, a serious, come to Jesus moment with can you continue leading this country? I mean, we are in such crossroads right now, I think, and it's a very serious question to ask. Specific
to this moment on Beau Biden, you'll remember he threw together that Hindenburg disaster of a press conference, and he raised the Beau Biden issue specifically.
I know there's some attention paid to some language in the report about my recollection of events. There's even reference that I don't remember when my son died. How in the hell dare he raise that? Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself, it wasn't any of their damn business. Let me tell you something. Some of you have commented, I wear since the day he died, every single day, the rosary he got from Our Lady of...
Well, and at that moment, he appeared to forget the name of the church. Our Lady of Guadalupe, by the way, just in case anyone's wondering. It's fair enough. We Catholics, we got a lot of Our Ladies, Our Lady of this, Our Lady of that.
Oh, I don't. I know them all.
Well, we know them all.
Don't test me on the saints and on the ladies,
right,
the Virgin Mother.
I'm sorry. Fair enough. It is Lent. I don't want to test you on any of those things. You've got enough tests right now in your life. All right. So it was at that moment. So again, of course, no reporter in that room would dare to say, well, sir, with all due respect, just to clear up the record, what year did your son die? Of course, because he was righteous indignation. He was seething through his teeth. How dare he raise that issue? I remember thinking to myself when he asked that question, it's none of his damn business. It's powerful. It's angry. No one wants to, poke an angry bear there. So let's fast forward to last night's report from NBC News, because now we've learned a little bit more about this exchange with the special prosecutor and Beau Biden. And wow, look at this. Surprise, surprise.
President Biden became heated, you'll remember, responding to the special counsel's assertion that he could not remember within several years when his son Beau died. Last week, the president criticized her for asking him about it.
How in the hell dare he raise that? Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself, wasn't any of their damn business.
But tonight, NBC News has learned that Hur never asked that question, according to two people familiar with the interview last fall. They say it was the president, not Hur or his team, who first introduced Beau Biden's death. The sources say the president got the date, May 30th, correct, but not the year.
So there you go. What did I tell you? Of course he raised Beau's death. He always does that. So now the question is, Mercedes, when Joe Biden recounted the events in his emergency thrown together press conference to show the world that he's competent and he has it all together, when he described the moment when the attorney asked him about his son's death and he thought to himself, how dare he ask that? Well, that never happened. So was he making it up? Was he lying at the press conference? Or did he forget about that too and just invent this to fill in the gaps of his memory?
Well, first of all, I think the press conference was a debacle for President Biden. That was not the way to handle a response to Robert Hur, especially if you're just in pure emotion, rage, which he was. Secondly, I think he obviously might have not remembered who asked him about or did not ask him about Beau.
Hold on, pause for a second there. He's giving a press conference to prove that everything is false in that report, and he has a great memory, and he misremembers that key moment.
Well, yes, and those are things you prepare for before the press conference. You talk to your team, and your team is responsible for asking you, when was this question asked? How did you respond? So you help prepare him for a press conference. The problem is, first of all, he never talks to the press, and when he does, it's like one gaffe after the other, and it's why you can't take this president seriously anymore. And there should be major concerns. Look, I can't believe Jill Biden hasn't come in there and said, "Honey, it's time to step away. It's time to. We can't do this again."
Then what's she going to do?
Then
she actually has to spend time with him.
But here's the deal: everyone looks at this president and sees a feeble old man, and it's sad. And you don't want that. We can't have that. We can't afford to have that right now. We have our Secretary of Defense in the hospital. I mean, we are in critical moments right now.
Hold that thought, because you're right. It is sad, but you know what? It's more than sad. It's incredibly dangerous. People are dying right now who wear our uniform. You're right. Everyone looks at this and they know that he's incapable, and it's sad. But when you say everyone looks at it, everyone, including our enemies. Everybody, including the enemies of America and the enemies of our allies, they see it too, and they're taking advantage of it. And we've lost soldiers, we've lost sailors. We're going to lose more if somebody doesn't get a hold of this. I want to get further into this because it's very rare that we get to actually talk to a person who has been in the Oval Office when a president is angry about something and probably wants to say, all right, that's it. I'm going out there and I'm going to tell the people the truth. I want to hear what advice she gave to Donald Trump at those moments, because I'm guessing it may have happened once or twice. So we'll find out within the confines of the non-disclosure agreement in just a moment. But first, it's 5:50.
WMAL. Making sense of the news.
Live
from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939. Mark Levin, weekdays 6 till 9 p.m.
On News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
How in the hell dare he raise that? Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself, wasn't any of their damn business.
But tonight, NBC News has learned that Hur never asked that question, according to two people familiar with the interview last fall. They say it was the president, not Hur or his team, who first introduced Beau Biden's death. The sources say the president got the date, May 30th, correct, but not the year.
Peter Alexander, NBC News there. So you're right, Mercedes. An absolute disaster. That's why I'm calling it a Hindenburg of a press conference. And it appears that it was his idea. He's the one who insisted, I'm going to show them, get a podium, tell the press, bring them back here. I'm going to go live, and I'm going to show them, first of all, how angry I am. I'm going to show them, they can. I keep saying, watch me. All right, well, now I want everyone to watch me. And now we know what? He confused Mexico with Egypt. He confused the name of our allies in the Middle East. And then he either misremembered or completely lied about this encounter with the attorney over the death of his son. When you were dealing with the president, I'm guessing there were times when Donald Trump was not happy with the news cycle.
That was every day. You know what was crazy, Larry? He would read everything. So you would walk in and, remember, okay, so I have 5 kids. I'm rushing to the White House. I'd get there by 7:30, crazy early. And by the time I would see the president, which was in the morning, he would have read every single article. And he would be like, did you read the article in New York Times? Did you read the article in New York Post? Did you read it? And your head would start spinning because you're like, you better be prepared with answers.
No, I didn't read it. I was making oatmeal. Come on.
Yeah. And then he's like, call this reporter. They're lying about this. I mean, this is how it was every morning.
Did you ever have to talk him off the ledge where he literally said, I'm going out there. I'm going into the Brady room. I'll talk to him.
Several times there was conversations about, that he's going to have to, he'd have to address it because he was just human. Right. He was the best communicator out of all of us.
True.
There's no question.
But I've got to think, I've heard stories that he, his impulse was to do this, and then he was like, okay, he listened to advisors. He was like, you're right, that probably won't make it better. Yeah. It'll make it worse. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Biden didn't listen to anybody. Or is there anyone in the circle that he trusts and respects?
No, I think the advisors, to me, and I don't know, I'm just assuming here, probably encouraged him to do it.
Yeah.
They thought that by getting him out there to show that he had all of his mental faculties, that would be the way to shut this down. And it only made it worse for President Biden. And there has to be, when you have David Axelrod, when you have Paul Begala, when you have James Carville, like all these people that are political operatives, longtime Democrat political operatives saying, hello, Houston, we've got a problem here. I think that it raises concerns for the Democrats on Joe Biden and his mental faculties and his ability to, continue serving as president.
That's wise and logical. And I think anybody, you don't even have to have, 2 different White House experiences like you have from Bush 43 to Trump's White House to get that and to know that. So if even a layman would say, geez, you got a problem here, and yet they still, encouraged him to go out there, I got to ask the question, are they trying to sabotage him? Are they trying to move the needle a little bit here?
Larry, my conspiracy theorist. I love it. I love
that's
it.
the only logical question.
Theorist.
If a normie like me knows it's a bad idea for him to go out there.
They're thinking?
Yeah.
You know what you do? You hide in the bunker and you wait till the story passes over. It's like a big storm in the White House. And so the reality is that there's going to be other new, like the news cycle. Talk about short-term memory when it comes to the media. You're going to move quickly into the next media cycle and just survive the hit. And that is what this White House is going to do. And they're going to keep everything very structured, meaning he's doing tapes that go, like he videotapes and does these tapings for TikTok. He did the Super Bowl taping on shrink inflation, would not sit down for an interview. It is a very controlled propaganda that's going to be coming out of the White House showing that he is a nice man. That's what they're going to show.
I think
and
they're
he's
trying to
quote
get rid
unquote
of him.
competent.
I think they're trying to get rid of him.
They're not. He has so much money right now.
Maybe I hope they're trying to get rid of him. I hope that there's someone.
No, I think someone would have had a come to Jesus, although they don't believe in Jesus, but a come to Jesus moment and just say, Joe, it's time to go.
Hey,
and that's not
the
happening.
president is a very devout Catholic. Just ask him when he's done making the pitch for abortion on demand.
Yeah, killing
Some
babies.
of you have commented, I wear since the day he died, every single day, the rosary he got from Our Lady of...
Our Lady of Planned Parenthood. It's 5:22.
Making sense of your world.
I can't believe this.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
And I am so with you.
Making sense of the news.
Hold on, I got to correct the record here. This just in. I've got new evidence. I just suggested, and you called it a conspiracy theory, thank you, Mercedes, that the White House is actually trying to sabotage the Biden presidency. And I'm wrong. I have evidence that they are not trying to do that because yesterday they allowed this to happen.
I think, of course, about the great Frederick Douglass and all that meant in terms of him having an extraordinary ability to articulate the truths. And often when one articulates the truth, one has to also point out the hypocrisies. With hopefully a way that is about motivating us to reconcile and do better.
So, every time people start to get worried about whether Biden can stay president, some
like, please,
genius
stay.
at the West Wing says, have Kamala go out and make some remarks.
Go.
And then everyone will be like, okay, fine, we'll stick with Biden.
Okay.
We'll stick with Joe. It's fine. We don't need the word salad right now.
Oh, my gosh, that's hysterical.
That's like one little glimpse of what life could be like. And it is honestly the most brilliant thing Joe Biden has done, I think, maybe in his entire political career, is picking her as the insurance policy.
Well, the Democrats, they've set themselves up for failure. They really have, because you cannot, let's say Joe Biden steps away and says, I'm done. I'm not going to run again.
Where's the bench?
How are the Democrats going to bypass Kamala Harris?
They can't.
How?
They're stuck.
They can't.
They're stuck
They'd
in their
have to
intersectional.
offer her like a $1 billion job somewhere,
right,
or like on 10 boards where she could just make a lot of money to move her out.
They got to find that dude who offered Carrie Lake all the money to get out of politics.
Oh, yes.
And just up the ante.
Yes, Jeff DeWitt.
Or maybe they'll marry her off to one of George Soros's kids, like they're doing with Huma Abedin. We'll get into that a little later, too. It's 5:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington. A Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9.
News now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:36. It's O'Connor and Company, Thursday morning in Washington, the District of Columbia, and everywhere else around the world listening to us live on the WMAL app. Thanks for joining us here. We're going to kick a little booty before we hand it off to Chris Plant. Starting at 7:05, Ian Pryor is going to join us with Fight for Schools. We've got a Loudoun County School Board meeting, and as always, it's not really about what's going on in Loudoun County, because what's going on in Loudoun County is going on at the school board meeting wherever you're living. We'll talk about that at 7:05. 7:35, John Myers running for Congress. And then at 8:05, the Attorney General of West Virginia will be joining us because Mercedes Schlapp, Attorney General Morrissey of West Virginia, is trying to rally together his colleagues to move forward to push Congress and the president's cabinet to invoke the 25th Amendment on President Joe Biden. Now, there really isn't a mechanism in place right now, theoretically, for anything formal like this. I'm looking forward to speaking with the Attorney General about it. He's a smart person. I've spoken to him before. But in general, right now, the way the language of the 25th Amendment is sort of laid out there, it seems like it was crafted and written and conceived of specifically to address the time we're living in at this very moment. Honestly.
Yes. I think, it sounds like if there is if you're cognitively impaired, that could possibly be one of the reasons why you would need the vice president and I believe it's a majority of the cabinet.
I think it is, but also the House of Representatives also plays a part in this. The Speaker and the House then, of course, petitions to the President Pro Tem of the Senate and sort of notifies them that this thing is happening.
This is like a non-starter. This is going nowhere. I mean, Kamala I doubt they're not going to move forward with this. They tried to do this with Donald Trump with the 25th Amendment. There was all this talk. I just don't see where it's going to go anywhere.
The only scenario where this goes anywhere, where this happens, it's not going to be because the good Attorney General of West Virginia, Patrick Morrissey, is moving things along, or Speaker Johnson, or anything else. This only happens when it becomes very clear, very evident beyond any sort of shadow of a doubt that Donald Trump is going to beat Joe Biden in November. As soon as they face that reality, then they're going to pull out all the stops.
I think they feel that they're confident and they're going to figure out a way to make sure that Joe Biden wins.
Oh,
and
in other words,
they're going to have to.
We're still in charge of counting the ballots in certain states, so that's never going to happen.
It was interesting. I was having this conversation with Matt, and we were having this discussion about, we always talk about election integrity, and wouldn't it be nice? And, he's had conversations with Van Jones, who's a liberal, and they're like, why don't we agree that there should be election officers in all these different, all these different cities where people question if they're counted, if these ballots are counted correctly. I wish there could be more of this bipartisan unity of, like, we want each, one vote for one person, and everyone should agree on that. And there should be voter ID. I mean, just really basic election integrity safeguards that you put in place.
Yeah. Let's hear from Morrissey here. We're not going to listen to a song from the Smiths, by the way. I didn't mean that Morrissey. I mean Patrick Morrissey, the Attorney General of West Virginia. He can tell you what his plan is here.
In our letter, we argued you can't have it both ways. If you're cognitively impaired and you can't be charged with a crime, how on earth are you able to also serve as President of the United States? I think my letter to the Vice President is very clear. It's time for the Cabinet to act and make sure that this issue gets resolved quickly.
Well, there is some logic to this. Listen, they need to pick their poison here. Either they invoke the 25th Amendment because the president is incapable of being commander-in-chief and running the executive branch, considering the fact that it is now a legal fact as proposed and undisputed legally in a court of law that he is incapable of defending himself against criminal charges. Either he needs to step down because of that fact, or if that legal argument is wrong and they actually show that the president is in fact capable of not just running the presidency, but also defending himself in court, well, then if that's the case, Mr. Hur then needs to recommend impeachment to the House of Representatives because he has committed high crimes and misdemeanors with regard to the mishandling and theft of classified documents. Well, they got to go one direction or another. They can't have both.
Yeah. And the way Special Counsel Robert Hur was able to manage this is to say, look, we're not going to press charges on him because they found President Biden to be, quote, an elderly man with a poor memory. So now, which of course then I could see why Patrick Morrissey's going in this direction.
Yeah.
Because he includes in his letter that the 25th Amendment, its central purpose was to preserve cognitive competence in the White House at all times.
Yeah.
So, you're starting to see the fact that this job is very demanding. We know this. Being president, the demands are very intense, and you need the clarity to do this. But if we go in this direction with President Biden, they're going to do it they'll do it to Donald Trump, which they did try to do.
They already did try to do it with Donald Trump. The difference is Donald Trump then said, okay, you want a cognitive test? I'll take the cognitive test.
He did say that.
You want to talk to my doctor? My doctor will go out there, and for God's sake, the doctor stood out there for 2 hours taking questions. Yes. This White House refuses to take a cognitive test, and the only thing we've seen from Kevin O'Connor, the president's physician, is written statements. He's never fielded a direct question at all. You're right. They will do this. They did do this. The difference is this White House is running scared from the fact, the truth, the reality that this man has mashed potatoes for brains.
Mashed potatoes, gosh.
Yeah, I know.
They're high. Look, they're gonna limit, and we see it already.
Yeah.
His public schedule is not demanding in any way. Other people are running the White House. There's
exactly.
No
at a time that we're on the brink of World War III. All right, coming up at 8:05, we're going to speak with Mr. Morrissey, Patrick Morrissey, the Attorney General of West Virginia, and maybe we'll play some songs from the Smiths. Every time I hear Morrissey, all I think of is the Smiths, so we might get into that as well. All right, so the Biden administration also yesterday, through the haze of the Commander-in-Chief's dementia, a new stopgap measure here with regard to deportations and immigration policy. Apparently, Mercedes Schlapp, there are some things with regard to immigration, illegal immigrants in this country, deportations, that the president can do through executive action. I've been told that there's nothing that he can do. He needs legislation. That said, let's talk about what he did. Let's first set the table here about what our problems in this country are. We've got millions of people here illegally. They're making false claims and illegal claims of asylum that they don't deserve, but they're going to have to wait for years before they have a hearing about it. In the meantime, they get a work permit. They're allowed to live here. They're allowed to work here. We see illegal immigrant gangs wreaking criminal havoc in various communities across the country. We'll share that story with you coming up. And at the same time, we also know for a fact that people have illegally entered this country who are on the terror watch list at a time when Hamas terrorists are trying to slaughter as many innocent Israelis over in our ally Israel's territories in their country, as well as Americans, by the way. They killed over 30 Americans on that terror attacks, and they keep holding American hostages. So, given all of those facts, what did Biden do yesterday? He put a pause on the deportation of anyone in this country who is of that Palestinian descent. So anyone who is discovered or captured or turned in who is in the country illegally, who came from Gaza and is wearing an I Heart Hamas T-shirt, they can't be deported.
Wait. Protesting in front of the White House.
Protesting in front of the White House, screaming for jihad.
What's the sign going to say? Like, ceasefire, down with Israel, and thanks for the fact you're not deporting me?
Yeah. More than that, and thanks for the work permit.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
there's an 18-month pause now on the removal of Palestinians in the U.S., and while they're here, they're going to get a work permit. Anybody who is in this country right now who traveled from the Palestinian territories, who has Palestinian documentation, even if they don't have documentation, because what are they going to walk around and say, why, yes, I am a member of Hamas. If they're students in the country, if they're working in the U.S., they're all going to be allowed to skip deportation until August 2025. This guy is not on our side.
Yeah, the White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, he said in a statement that Biden's order will grant Palestinians in the U.S. a temporary, quote, temporary safe haven. Let me make this clear. These people are, part of them are organizing these protests on our college campuses. The propaganda of Hamas is deep in this country. It's been around since the 1980s. They've been pushing this, where it is about Israel being the colonizer. They're evil, and it's down with Israel, down. You know, it's like that whole idea of Israel being little Satan, and the U.S. being big Satan.
And
these people. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're 100% right. I'm sorry. I thought you were almost done there.
You were going to cut me off. You were like,
no. I just want to add to that because I want to be clear. There is a way to do this if your spirit is with the innocent people. And I don't like the fact that poll after poll shows that over 70% of people who live in Gaza would continue to support and vote for Hamas. But who knows? Maybe they're saying that because they're afraid they're going to get slaughtered if they don't. I have no doubt that there are people who are living in those areas right now who are, in fact, worthy of asylum from Hamas because they don't agree with Hamas. I have no doubt. But that's not
I agree with that.
But that's not what this says. In fact, if you listen to it, he's offering them asylum not from the terrorists. He's offering them asylum from Israel. Israel's the problem. You know, understand something. Anybody who lives in Gaza right now and they're looking for asylum, it would be really easy for them to walk, about 20 miles west in the desert and find asylum in Egypt. But Egypt says, hell no, we don't want those people here. If they're living in the West Bank, they could cross the Jordan. It's a nice swim, but it's, a historic river, and then find themselves in the nation of Jordan and find asylum. But no, the Jordanians, who are literally genetically and ethnically and culturally aligned with the Palestinians, they say, no, we don't want these people. But the president said, I remain focused on improving the humanitarian situation. Many civilians remain in danger. Therefore, I'm directing the deferral of removal of certain Palestinians. That language tells you that the danger comes from Bibi Netanyahu. This guy is a monster. A horrible person.
Well, let's think this through. For the Democrats, I mean, you look at the squad members, you look at their liberal base. Yeah. They're with Hamas. They are not with Israel. And it's why you're seeing this breakdown of the Biden Democrat voter, because they are so upset at Biden. And you've seen Biden basically say, well, we have to do a report to see if the arms that we're sending to Israel are being used against civilians in Gaza.
That's right.
You've seen Biden criticize Netanyahu time and time again. This is where they're headed. They're headed to the fact that they're going to find an excuse to stop supporting Israel.
And you're 100% right. They are beholden. Listen, this is about winning Michigan, because a huge percentage of the people who are in this country who will not be deported, who came from that area, are living in Dearborn, Michigan right now. And something tells me they'll figure out a way to count their votes. It's 5:54.